every next participant gets 7 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes. Next round, you get 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to ring a bell 1 minute before your time is over so that you get that warning. And basically, okay, now let me give you the name of the order of speaking. It's all alphabetically. So it's Avi Puri. You get the start off with the 9 minutes. Then Amy. Then Deepak. Deepak, can you hear me? He's gone off. Anyway, then Deepak. Then Harish. Then Lalit. Then Naveen. Then Pradeep. And last is Rotash. And so this is not a debate. And please, no loud voices, no raising your anger, no unparliamentary language. And at the end, you can rebut or just do a conclusion to your own earlier talk. And let's kick off. So what I'll do is I'll mute all and then I'll unmute Avi. And then we are on.
I have a question. You mean no parliamentary language?
Oh, right. You're so right.
Good one.
Okay, let me be
I'm gonna get
That's a great beginning.
And I have a question. One is allowed to speak less than 9 minutes, right?
Sure.
The lesser the better. If you overstep your time limit, then the third event's food bill is coming to you.
Oh.
And if you are short by 2 minutes or more, then you get an extra whatever 1 plate. Right? Okay. So
now, can you repeat the topic, please?
Contempt of court.
What is the topic?
Contempt of court.
Contempt of court. Oh.
Yes. Well, if you don't know what to talk on, you can talk on anything. You're good at that anyway. Okay, so I'm going to mute all. And then is Avi Puri. I'm finding Avi. Where's Avi? Hello, where's Avi? Wait, Avi, I can't find you. Can you hear me? I can't find Avi. Wait a minute. Avi, you know what name? Shiv. Oh, okay.
Shiv.
I can't find Avi. Unmute all. I couldn't find.
I can see Avi. You want to have a gallery.
He's unmuted now. See,
I've unmuted everybody right now.
Yeah,
no, because Avi is under
maybe
the
we can
name
do,
of Shiv.
maybe we can have everybody unmuted.
Yeah,
No.
No?
You have a gallery view, Shoki. You have a gallery view where you can see everybody. If you don't have a gallery view,
I've got a gallery view.
then you just click on his picture and you get the unmute button. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Fine. I'm learning. So
Or you go to, or you.
Okay, Avi, you're on. Unmute yourself. Avi, you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So the topic as was sent out by Rotash the other day was several. In fact, there were several topics. One was related to judicial time. One was related to the case being whether the case was necessary at all. Truth as a defense. Should anyone be convicted without a trial? Should Justice Mishra have heard the case? And the fundamental right to freedom of speech and its effect or restriction by the Court of Contempt Act. Now, we have to remember that the first freedom which is granted to us under the Constitution, the very first, 19(1)(a), is freedom of speech and expression. It is the fundamental right granted by the Constitution and is important enough to be mentioned as the first in the list. However, later in the same article, there is a provision which says that such right is not unrestricted and unfettered, and reasonable restrictions can be imposed for public policy. Call it public policy for the sake of it. I'm not using very technical terms to keep it simple. Contempt of court was one such restriction which was imposed. And again, contempt falls into two categories. One which falls under the category of freedom of speech, and the other for which the contempt of court is basically and generally used, which is for the breach of an order of the court, and how a court enforces its action through using its powers of contempt to enforce the orders that it has passed. Now, typically, all of us, I think here, must have gone through a litigation at some point of time. Orders of injunction or status quo are passed regularly in court cases, which I think everyone must be aware of. In case of such breach, in case of breach of those injunctions or status quo orders, the court has the right and has the powers to call upon the person to either purge the contempt, which is means to rectify the position to the earlier state, or to suffer the consequences of the breach by being punished by the court. This is the contempt of court as is generally known in democracies across the world. However, there's one more provision in the Contempt of Court Act in India, which scandalizes the court. Now, this term scandalizes the court was introduced to the Contempt of Court Act at a time when, frankly, if you ask me, the concept of Raj was there. It is parallel with the provision of sedition, which is in some ways provided under the Indian Penal Code, and where ideas of undefined ideas of what scandalizes the court or what really amounts to sedition are left kind of nebulous and left to the discretion of the court to enforce. Now, generally under criminal law, no action of a person can be a crime unless it falls within the parameters, the specific parameters of what the crime consists of. If you go into start using nebulous terms such as scandalizes the court, which are undefined, the person whose actions are being tried for contempt does not know the limits of where the limits of his lawful action end and unlawful action begins. This is one of the primary objections to restricting freedom of speech, converting it into a crime by using terms which are undefined, nebulous, and which are left purely to the discretion of the judge who is hearing the matter. Case in point, the recent case in Tamil Nadu, which happened after the Prashant Bhushan case, where a judge misreading the English translation of a Tamil speech given by a Tamil actor, issued notice of contempt against him. Now, the contempt was finally quashed by the division bench of the same High Court. But the fact is that this gray areas of, or you know, what I would call nebulous and undefined areas create these problems. Go further from there. When we reach Prashant Bhushan's case specifically, Prashant Bhushan was hauled up for 2 tweets of his in the case which has been decided so far. The first tweet, which was related to Justice Bobde sitting on a motorcycle, Prashant very wisely immediately apologized and said that he had failed to notice that the judge was not riding the motorcycle at that time, but was just sitting on it. And that brought an end to that part of it. The second part of the tweet, which related to the misuse or non-use of what should have been proper judicial time for hearing matters which were of much far greater importance. And the second tweet, in which he blamed judges or accused a number of judges of the Supreme Court for corruption, were what he was charged for. Now, let's look at the corruption case first, the corruption tweet first. The corruption tweet was not based on, but found its reflection in an earlier press conference which had been held by 4 judges of the Supreme Court, in which they too claimed, or they too stated, that there were certain, and I'm not using the exact words which were used then, but certain practices which were not very happy. And certain practices were being used in the court, which were not very much in keeping with the dignity of the court. I would say this, that across people, and as we speak to each other, corruption in courts has been talked about and has been mentioned by various people. Why is it that Prashant gets picked out? Prashant Bhushan, to my view, gets picked out here because he was the one person or one lawyer who was making a noise loud enough to be heard, not just by the court itself, not by just the media in India, not just by the social media in India, but by the media across the world. And this silencing of Prashant Bhushan and silencing of Prashant Bhushan's freedom of speech, so as to say, is, to my view, the harshest thing which has been the outcome of this particular case. Ashok, time's up for now. I could carry on, but it's time up for now.
So I'm going to now, who's the next? So I'm going to mute Avi. And next is Amy. Amy, you're on. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I'm on. Yes, I'm on. Okay, guys, this is my personal take on contempt based on law. I thought that the Bhushan case has been much talked about and hashed and rehashed, so I didn't delve into that much. And so I don't know if you would wanted that or not, but here it is. To start with, what is contempt of court? Is it being disrespectful towards a judges, or does it concern the administration of justice? So in England, Regina versus Police Commissioner case of 68, Lord Denning said, let me say that at once that we will never, where did it go? We'll never use this jurisdiction to uphold our own dignity. That must rest on more sure foundations, nor will we use it to suppress those who speak against us. We do not fear criticism. We do not resent it, for there is something far more important at stake, and that is no less than the freedom of speech. So that is how important freedom of speech is in a free society. It must be clear that freedom of speech is not just showering praises on those in power, but the right to tell the bitter truth, to criticize and raise dissent, irrespective of the platform. That is, disruption is essential to a democracy because the fresh ideas come and wash away the cobwebs. Also, it is not only about one's ability to speak contempt, but also the ability to listen to others and about other views to be heard. In short, free society can exist only until the existence of freedom of speech. The basic tenet of contempt is, does it interfere in the administration of justice? Most of the criticism of the court is because of an actual concern regarding the functioning of the judiciary. However strong, it should be used to introspect, plug in the loopholes, and strengthen this institution for excellence of performance. If the criticism is uncalled for, the judges are supposed to ignore it, as is done in England and America, etc. In a free society, critique comes with the territory. It's part of the job. As I said, disruption is essential for the purpose of its purpose is to bring in the required change. Public institutions have to be open to public criticism. Critique must be respected and used as an important feedback, and action should be taken, if needed, to improve the final product. In case of the Orissa High Court, the court held that a common form of such contempt is the vilification of the judge. The court has to ask whether the vilification of the judge is as a judge, or is it as a vilification of the judge as an individual? If the latter, the judge is left to his private remedies, and the court has no power to commit for contempt. If it is a former, the court will proceed with scrupulous care in cases that are clear and beyond a reasonable doubt. Thus, the contempt jurisdiction is not intended to uphold the personal dignity of the judges. They are responsible for that themselves. But if a person needs to be punished criminally, then the contempt must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But once the charge is proven, then punishment, that is fine or imprisonment, is imposed unconditionally. In democracy, people are supreme and state authorities work for them. Thus, there is no need for judges to prove and defend their authority or display pomp. Their authority comes not from fear of contempt, but from the public confidence and their integrity and their impartiality. Sorry. Even as some countries have toned down their contempt law, India's SC is trying to expand it. The contempt case against Bhushan has shaken the intelligentsia and the legal eagles here. SC has set a grim precedent for the future. The public reaction to these proceedings has highlighted a growing loss of faith in judiciary. And the question being asked is, and I quote, can two tweets shake the very foundation of the rule of law and Indian democracy? Whereas Contempt Act of 1917 and 2006 of our Constitution says, However, no court shall impose a sentence under this act for a contempt of court unless it is satisfied that the contempt is of such a nature that it substantially interferes or tends substantially to interfere with the due course of justice. In Prashant Bhushan case, there was no such fear. Instead of dealing with the issues raised by Bhushan, the court used its power to convict him of contempt, and the conviction was prejudged. The Supreme Court decision has started a barrage of criticism from lawyers, activists, and even the former judges of the court, because it means citizens are no longer allowed to show concern over questionable authorities and hold the people in power accountable when they are deceitful. Bhushan's tweets were about his actual concern for the functioning of the court. The SC's harsh response diminished the reputation of the court. It is regrettable that our judges believe that to maintain respect for themselves, they have to silence criticism. The role of the executive in the appointment and transfer of judges erodes the democratic process. In a system of checks.
You're on 8 minutes.
I'm over. Time is over?
Yeah, you're at 8 minutes. You're over. Can you?
Okay, done.
You can wind down if you want 2 seconds.
No, let it be next time.
Okay, I'm going to mute you and then next is Deepak. Go ahead, Deepak.
Ashok, not you. Alphabet, you're not following the alphabet. Here I was looking at you.
No. So I'm just
I'll save that. I'll save time.
You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, indeed. I'm, yeah. So I can just, both Avi and Amy have taken a very legal viewpoint. And I want to just move a little bit away from it. As an ordinary citizen and an intelligent citizen and a citizen who has found in this democracy a place under the sun, a very good place, I have to have some beliefs. So some of those beliefs are, and I will state them, that the institutions that have taken place over 60, 70 years of this republic have very strong foundations and have been upheld by men and women who must be exceptional in their own right to have reached where they have reached. This group of 9 people here itself reflects some singular achievements. And we must respect, at least I respect, both the institutions as well as the men and women who actually look after those institutions. Whether they are captains of the army who climb a mountain or they are generals or whatever, it doesn't matter. You do not arrive at a station in life within an institution without some very, very exceptional circumstances and qualities. Having said that, I think my second belief is that yes, I believe very, very firmly in adult franchise, and I exercise that franchise, and that franchise leads me to an elected leadership. And in the case of the courts, if it was true that the elected leadership influences the court or has influenced the court or a particular individual is so chosen, then of course it is the leadership that is at disarray. How is it at disarray? When it gets to the hustings, this is an issue. Whatever he has done, even if you're not able to sue him, and don't forget, Prashant Bhushan lost a case, a defamation case against a very senior person in the law. Within his brotherhood, a man of exceptional circumstances who arrived in life from very difficult positions. Mr. Jaitley was not just some ordinary person. He accused him openly as a minister of this country that he was corrupt. He took him to defamation and won. Okay. So I'm leaving Prashant Bhushan aside, and I want to speak a little more about context. You know, it's very unfortunate in my country that our references despite 70 years, we do not quote our prime ministers, we do not quote our chief justices, we must quote from somewhere very far away. The problem is that that context was different. Just Amy's point, Lord Denning I've heard of, Oliver Wendell Holmes I've heard of, etc., including presidents of the United States I've heard of, and so on and so forth. But you know, these are men who had slavery, these were men who had colonies, these are men who lived in imperial comfort. How is it the same for a judge who has to work his way through as a lawyer in these courts? How is it the same for a prime minister? It's not. What has happened in our republic is fantastic. My adult franchise goes towards building institutions. Okay. Coming to the law of contempt, as I understand the law of contempt in general terms, the specificities Avi has pointed out scandalizes the court, maybe a word in India, I don't know. But as I understand contempt, it is this, that a person, that if the judges are of the view that in the public scheme of things, in the public space, a man's words are detrimental to the institution, then he may be held in contempt. Okay. So now Mr. Bhushan, so let me leave that aside. Accepting, so my first point relates to context, etc., and our current situation. My second relates to the contempt issue relating to something that will bring down the institution. The judges must believe that my institution, which I have upheld, which I have spent 50 years of my life doing, is going to run down. Now, this belief may be just belief because they are judges. However, the law has a protection. In the United States, as I once wrote, this was always an issue because the Wild West was happening post the Civil War. Andrew Jackson went and killed off all the Indians, and judges said, you know, what the hell do you think you're doing? The thing was that they balanced it off. The president has immunity, the judges have lifelong tenure. Do that in India, and you will have the same results. Yet I submit to you that this very group here, if this was put through Parliament tomorrow, would draw fracas. So what is happening actually? I suspect that the intelligentsia is just losing touch. We have to get out and have a look at what people think. I think that lots and lots of people believe very firmly going that from a police station to a judge is a very big thing for them, and they want it like that. They don't think that the institution is falling apart. So the judges in their wisdom may feel that Mr. Bhushan, because he is Mr. Bhushan, precisely because he is Mr. Bhushan, he has spent a lifetime in public interest litigation. A whole lifetime. And there is not a single case he's ever won. No case. So here is a man who is with the media, for the media works with him, etc., etc. The third point in contempt is it provable, or is it even claimed by the person held in contempt, that any of these judges has a personal grievance? Mr. Misra, Justice Misra, if he could be said that he didn't like his father, that they went into business together and he cheated him, this is personal grievance. I submit to you again, no judge will sit on that bench if this was made in public forum. If Mr. Bhushan can stand up and say that Justice Misra has personal grievance against me, or that Chief Justice Bobde has personal grievance against me, he will get off that bench on his own. He upholds that institution. Finally, if I can sum up in a moment, this matter of freedom of speech is a very peculiar thing. This is a matter of contempt. This is not a matter of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a completely different matter. I am free to speak. And I'm free to make contempt. I'll go to defamation. You sue me. I can defame one of you right here. What else? What other recourse do you have? Suppose I say something really nasty about, let's see, who's here? Harish. Well, he'll sue me. Where will he go to? He'll sue me and win in court because I can't prove it. So I don't think there's any loss of freedom of speech. I cannot have loss of speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Harish, now if you start munching, I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you're not being unmuted. Yeah. Okay. You're on, Harish.
Yeah. Actually, I should have prepared a little more for this. First, compliments to the previous speakers for the excellent synopsis they've given. I tried to pick up the thread from what Avi had sent to me, and the first thing, what we need to understand is what is contempt. The definition of contempt. What is it? One is an international definition of contempt, and one is a definition of contempt related to India. So they say that the contempt is defined as an act which derogates the dignity and authority of the courts. And then this is the basic question, definition of contempt, and this has been translated by many legal luminaries in their own way to define what is that contempt. And the reason that you made these laws for the contempt laws was essentially to protect the machinery of justice and the interests of the public. And not being a legal brain, I have researched that the law of contempt has also undergone a few modifications over the years. And they all say that in the effort to give it a proper shape, work is still going on. I read that there was also a committee that was appointed, some Sanyal committee, which was supposed to work on the laws of this thing. They came up with some interesting deliberations and conclusions, which were subsequently adopted, and the courts took cognizance of this. The interesting thing to note here is that the topic that we have chosen today has relevance to the case of Prashant Bhushan. And in his case, if you really ask me, it was personal vendetta which took its toll in terms of Justice Mishra behaving in the manner that he did. It's all in public domain. Having said that, I said, a contempt of court. And why did Prashant do it? Because he felt, one, of course, sitting on a motorbike was no big deal, but he had also instituted proceedings against corrupt judges. And I tried to do a research on this. In fact, I have here the list of, I think, 47 judges of the Chief Justices of India since the formation of the Republic. And I was trying to go through all the names, and I checked up with some legal person that we all know that these judges have not been, these justices have not been above board. And if you guys were recording me, probably if you were a legal guy, you probably can sue me for that. But the truth is, we all know that. And first I went to the time, because I only know about judges like B.N. Kripal was one judge that I knew because I knew him socially also. But then I went through all the judges and I spoke to some people and asked them, hey, who are these judges who were clean? And you came across, and the thing was, oh, he was absolutely clean. I think one of the names that came over was Ahmadi, which I was told was a clean guy. Now, having said that, the issue is Balakrishna was another Chief Justice, a corruption case was instituted against him 10 years ago. I think the hearing has still not taken place. Now, if anybody, as a common citizen, and if I had the time and the energy and the willingness to go to launch a PIL on this subject, would that be constituted as a contempt of court because I'm demeaning the court? Maybe a retired judge, but I'm demeaning the court. Unfortunately, what has happened is that this institution, the highest institution in our country, has been compromised. While observations made earlier, there is a faith that a common man still believes that, hey, I will get justice. The truth is that the institution has been compromised, and it has been compromised because of, again, not being a legal this thing, but whether it is the appointment of judges or whether it was the change of things that were brought way back in 1993, whether it was done during the previous regime, previous governments. But the truth is that the institution has been compromised, and guys like Prashant Bhushan, who took up the cudgels, face the brunt of the court, not because of the substance of the case. It was personal vendetta, which played the role. And to that extent, the contempt of court, freedom of speech is as good as the people who interpret it. And if the people who are interpreting the contempt of court or the freedom of speech, whether it is sedition, and I understand that a new law has been instituted just a few months ago, some UIUAA, where there is again a very fine line between what is freedom of speech and what is sedition. So the laws are misused. So the answers probably that we need to have is that if there was a way that if people of repute, integrity, and high esteem took positions in courts, you probably will not have the situation that we have encountered. Having said that, I think the courts themselves this time could have played a conciliatory role by ignoring a tweet by an individual. But it was not ignored, not because they could have, or they chose not to. It was again personal vendetta. What has been pointed out is right. I have the right to go and sue somebody. And we had a case where Arvind Kejriwal and Arun Jaitley case were resolved because Arvind accused him of some misbungling in the Indian hockey, some federation or Olympic something, and Delhi Cricket Association. And the case got settled because maybe there was bungling, but the case got settled because Arvind didn't have the Kejriwal didn't have the capacity to fight it out, and he was more interested in doing something that he was elected to do. The sad part is that today the Chief Justice, again, whether of course he gets elevated, and the decision to who to make the Chief Justice is also compromised. We're not following a protocol that was instituted that should be under the law. The government has the provision to do that, and the court abides by it. So the disturbing scene right now is, I think, is the type of people, the integrity and the the basic intent. And then you see how these people, I also saw that I believe there is a provision where from the Bar Council itself. And what is the Bar Council? I mean, we all know about the role that lawyers play in litigation and how everything has become a money-making racket to that extent, where justice is not delivered and justice delayed means more money and more aggravation. So to my mind, there is a need for a radical reform in the choice and selection of judges and how they get to the courts. And there should be no political interference, or even if there is political interference, it should be from a person who is absolutely above board, and is difficult to find one. So while we have chosen who we have chosen, while we live in a democracy and we have the freedom of speech, the truth is, when the highest institution in the country cannot deliver justice to an ordinary person, and when that highest institution cannot be questioned for bunglings, economic or otherwise, I think you have trouble ahead. I only hope it gets sorted out soon.
Thank you, Harish. And I think without even waiting for the other speakers, I must tell you that the third event food bill is coming to you to reimburse, because you're at 10 minutes. Great. Lalit, you're on next. I'm muting Harish.
You didn't ping me.
I pinged you twice at 6 minutes, at 8 minutes, and then you still carried on.
Then you should have a digital clock which should be ticking to say time.
Listen to this. I do this, and then I go down, niche, and do this again.
Now I can hear something. You should have kept it pressed. I heard it now.
All right. But anyway, the bill is coming to you. Don't worry.
I don't have to speak for more than 5. I didn't have any substance to talk about.
I was enjoying your talk, so I didn't disturb you in between, but the bill is still coming to you.
No problem.
Okay. Lalit. Okay, you're unmuted? Not yet. Lalit, you're
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Number one, I am going to be speaking in Mongrela. It will be English, Hindi, and Punjabi in between. Most of the points, तो पहले speakers बोल चुके हैं. But anyway, if I repeat, so I repeat. As I understand, the contempt of court is in 2 parts, as Avi mentioned also. First is the civil contempt, which means that if you don't follow the orders of the judge, then you are going to be punished. And which has been there for ages. पुराने ज़माने में राजा महाराजा जो थे, they were the arbitrators, and if you did not listen to their thing, your head was chopped off. So the same thing is following even now. What is worrying is the second part of the contempt of court, and which is called the criminal contempt of court, and which is यानी अजीब सी चीज है. If you look at it, don't follow their order, it's a civil. You bring you scandalize them or lower their authority, so you are a criminal. It's a criminal case, criminal contempt of court. And how do you scandalize them? You can scandalize them by anything spoken, anything written, anything visually displayed, and even by signs. All these constitute the criminal contempt of court. My question is that in a civilized society, in a proper society, like in a democracy, an ideal democracy, the criticism is very essential to make it function. A court will function well in a good society. The court will function only if there is a criticism by which they can correct themselves. अगर आप उसे ही लिमिट कर देंगे, तो it becomes like a dictatorship. It is no longer a proper judiciary. It is a dictator judiciary that you are facing. India has come up with this contempt of court in 71, if I'm not mistaken, 1971. Before this, we were following the British concept, which Avi said earlier, and which maybe because they were the rulers, they bought in. But even when the British came up with their laws, there was to reduce It was not only, it is that to reduce what the courts can do as a contempt of court. In 1926, the British India Contempt of Court was passed in 1926 to define and limit the powers of certain court and punishing the contempt of court. In India, what we have done is exactly the reverse. We have increased the powers. So I mean, to summarize all this thing, because ये सारा प्रशांत भूषण वगैरह का आ रहा है, so probably my take in that matter is that in this particular case, it is no longer contempt of court. It has become more like contempt by the court. Because here what is happening is that the judiciary has become secondary to the political powers. And when that happens, then the country is no longer being ruled by democracy, then it has already become a part dictatorship or a part, whatever you call it. It's moving more like monarchy, let's say. कि मैं राजा हो गया, I can do everything, whatever I want, like more or less like what Harish does at our meetings. मैं ये कह रहा हूँ यही होगा. So I have saved time. I think जो Harish ने ज़्यादा time ले लिया, I have saved you time over here. Onward to Naveen. Thanks. Frozen. Thanks.
Oh, I unmuted myself. Your Honor, Justice Chawla, this man just committed contempt of court. Hello, hi. Can't hear you. Ashok?
Yeah, I got disconnected and got connected all over again.
You're back.
Yeah. Black coffee. So are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Lalit, are you finished? Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to now unmute.
I'm finished. I'm finished.
Sorry, I got disconnected.
I gave my time to Harish.
Okay. Naveen, you're on next.
Okay.
Trying to unmute you. Yeah. Why is it not happening?
Let me try.
I'm okay now.
Unmuted, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My submission today is going to be more like a general citizen, ordinary citizen, since I'm not a legal or have not much knowledge about the law. It's an opposing viewpoint to quite a few of you, but that's, I guess, the fun of it. The subject matter of today's dialogue is contempt of court. I would focus for just a minute on the Prashant Bhushan case, and then take it as a cue to speak about a much wider canvas. There is no harm in asserting yourself and speaking out that institutions and democracy is under threat. You will no doubt observe that these are generalized statements which every dispensation has been accused of since 1975. The issue arises when you accuse 4 chief justices directly of being corrupt. Now, a specific accusation like this must be backed by evidence and not be passed off as an opinion. And when he was asked, he conveniently claimed he meant morally corrupt. Now, without getting into the rights and wrongs of it, the fact is that a direct accusation of 4 judges even being morally corrupt definitely falls within the ambit of contempt of court. I am not a lawyer, but little that I have read up clearly demonstrates that contempt of court refers to not only not obeying a court order, but also being critical of a court order. In fact, also obstructing proceedings of the court tantamounts to contempt of court. Now in India, the Supreme Court has been increasingly subjected to motivated attacks and unwarranted criticism. If you ask me, is there a political interference in the Supreme Court? The answer is an unambiguous yes. The most recent example of the High Court judge investigating the Delhi riots being transferred overnight to Chandigarh is a glaring example of political interference. However, there is an upside to this political interference, and sometimes it helps to close the cases very timely. Let's take the case of Ayodhya. There are bound to be elements who do not agree with judgments, but at least political influence brought the issues to closure. Even before the judgments were pronounced, there were people asking, why the rush? Asking why the rush, even though the case had gone on for 150 years. Let us take the case of Rafale. Linking it to corruption by the opposition was a sure way of ensuring further delays in acquiring desperately needed aircrafts. Thank God the political interference had the clout to ensure the courts did not come in the way of acquiring these aircrafts. Now, some people may call this political interference, destruction of democracy or whatever. I'm fine with that. There's absolutely no issue. But my contention at the end of this is going to be that democracy and contempt of court are interlinked. Otherwise, we are casting aspersions on judges. We are going to be opening up a Pandora's box. In a country like India, contempt of court is the only law which prevents the judges from being ridiculed. And you can well imagine the consequences if after every judgment there is a free-for-all and judges individually and collectively becomes subject of ridicule. To that extent, Prashant Bhushan definitely erred in setting a bad precedent. The Constitution also guarantees freedom of speech, but subject to reasonable restrictions. In the UK, judges are appointed by the Queen on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. In the US, the President nominates the judges, which are ratified by the Senate. In that sense, India is still the most democratic that the collegium decides on the judges, which of course require approval from the government. But the choice of finding a mutually acceptable judge lies with the collegium and not with the government. I will now read out a little excerpt from a Japanese academic journal called View the World, which published an article by Kobayashi Koichi, professor of international politics at Nagoya University. The article believes that within the next 10 years, the United States is very likely to suddenly split and collapse. This article immediately caused an uproar all over the world. He reasoned, 1, due to racial contradictions, the vitality of the internal mechanism of the American democratic system is becoming increasingly exhausted. And here is the clincher, point number 2, where he said people's excessive claims for freedom and contradictions between reality and capacity. There is a lesson in this for us, that if democracy has to survive, then it has to go hand in hand with the century-old statute of contempt of court. I am sure all of us will agree, democracy is a big mess, but it's the best mess to be in. Thank you.
Short and sweet, Naveen.
Yeah.
Short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to Pradeep now. I'm unmuting you. Pradeep, you're on.
Thank you. I first of all want to say that sorry, I didn't have much time to actually prepare this. I was busy on some other matters. And while we were discussing today, I could jot down a few points, so it could be a little unprepared, but please forgive me for it. Excuse me, can I? I'm in a call. Yeah. Okay. I think many of us have missed out certain points, and I'm going to really mention those points. And I do hope that this recording does not go to any of the judges in any case, in any manner whatsoever, because I'm definitely going to be one going behind bars for a couple of years for what I'm going to say. I believe that Article 19 is very clear in granting, can I quote, granting all citizens certain rights. Now, all citizens, I presume, also include judges. If that is the case, then who's to really going to check the judges? If I have no right to criticize a judge, is a judge more unequal or more equal than a citizen? Aren't we landing up in a situation where it was anticipated in the animal farms kind of scenario? So I believe that Prashant Bhushan's case is a real shame. If citizens basically cannot criticize a judge, I'm not talking about making accusations, I'm talking about criticizing a judge or a judgment, they have no right. That means the judges have no right to really attempt a contempt on the court on the particular citizen. There's another aspect. If judges are unequal, why are the judges exempt from when they make comments or make criticism about their fellow colleagues or judgments? Then they are exempt from bloody contempt. There have been many cases where various judges have said various things, but nobody talks about them. No court. And correct me, Avi, if I'm wrong on this. No court has ever spoken to them. Okay. So what I believe is the judiciary is basically becoming a law unto themselves, which is really a dangerous scenario that the world is, that India is getting into. When the constitution was drafted, we had a system called the jury system to keep a check on the judges. Very conveniently, for some reason which I don't digest, the jury system was abolished and put aside. And the freedom given to the judges is so huge that they are a right unto themselves in today. One of the speakers here said that if you do not get a decision on a case within a certain period of time, it is like a contempt of court. I personally am aware of a case which is going on for 35 years. And there is no decision of the court. Why? Because the files come on a trailer. He says, "Hamare paas time nahi hai." Isn't it already contempt of court? He's not doing his job. I want to ask another question basically is, if a judge does not respect a judgment of the Supreme Court of India, and I'm talking about a High Court judge, does not respect a judgment of the Supreme Court of India, which I believe, I'm not a legal person, which I believe is mandatorily, if you present it to the judge, he is supposed to take note of it, write it in his judgment, and if he disagrees, he has to list it down. But he just can't say, I am not going to record it and keep it aside totally. In an open court. Can nobody talk about it? Isn't that not contempt of court? So, back to the animal farm situation. I feel that Prashant Bhushan's case was absolutely, what he said was absolutely right. if we don't have the authority or the liberty to talk and criticize, I'm not talking about accusations, criticize, we are no longer a democracy. Might as well say goodbye. That's my thought. See you.
Thank you, Pradeep. On to Rutash now. Rutash, here on, yeah.
Thank you. I think 7 speakers before me have said a lot, so I'll have to struggle to find something new to say, but I didn't really have Prashant Bhushan in my crosshairs. Of course, that's the backdrop. I don't have contempt in my analysis as well. That is the backdrop. I'm actually concerned about the following. Is our Supreme Court healthy? Is our state healthy? What is the state? And I have a few comments there. Are the other institutions safe? And I think that has been alluded to. And Deepak Deepak brought up this point that, you know, we don't have people of stature. We have politicians. We don't have statesmen. Who do we quote? Where do we find inspiration from? My key issue is, valuable as it is, do I have a right to unfettered speech? By unfettered, I mean up to a limit where, let's say, I address the issue, but not the person. I can address a judgment if not the person. Harish and Pradeep both worried about, you know, if this recording gets out. So I'll join you because I have a few comments to make that but I think we're very safe because what has already been said in the media, I'll name people who have said it in the media, on television, their caustic remarks, their analysis has been far more incisive, far more painful to any judge than what the 3-4 of us can say this. So my point is, can I speak the bitter truth? Can I find that freedom to express myself? Because let's face it, I am one of 1.3 billion people. The cumulative, the sigma of 1.3 billion freedoms is the freedom that a society has. And if you bottle it up, if you put it, it's like a pressure cooker. It has to erupt at some point. And I'll come back to this point a little later. To the issue of where does it go back to? The church, the state, the legislature were the same. Go back to the Anne Boleyn and the Henry VIII and so on. The church was the state, was the king was everything. And it was the king's court. The word court goes back to that. It was the king's court that administered justice on behalf of the king. So essentially, we do have that backdrop to look to. And are we headed back there? I fear yes. Democracy was built on 4 pillars. The legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and the 4th estate. We called it the media or whatever it is. The purpose of 4 pillars was that you kept the building steady. You had 4 pillars separated with a certain distance and you had the roof on top and the building would hold. What happens to the roof if the pillars come together? You are looking at a dramatic situation where it wobbles. If the 4 pillars are in collusion with each other, that is none different than going back to Henry VIII. And I am worried in that sense that we are headed there. Animal Farm, Brave New World, which one was that? Aldous Huxley's treatise on the future of the state, I think all point to a similar direction that we seem to be headed to. And perhaps the emergence of artificial intelligence and technology only cements power in the hands of the power holder. And that is perhaps something at some point we need to talk about. So that's what worries me. I worry about the issue of the supremacy of judges. Pradeep called it, why are you more equal than me, right? The judgment and the judge and the person occupying the role of a judge, they have to be seen separately. Do they bow to the law of equity and common sense? I fear not. Can they get scandalized easily? And is there a difference between contempt of court and being contemptuous of the judicial process. I think there's a distinction that's waiting to be created there, if you like. I'm worried about, if I might call it, the hypersensitivity of this court, particularly in this particular case. Two tweets can bring down an institution and harmless flies buzzing past, or is it an underlying sentiment within the court itself, the judges itself, that we are more equal than the others, and we find ourselves in the exalted position of actually dispensing power, not justice. And I fear, or rather I state, that that is the case. Justice Mishra clearly was biased, no question about it. The fact that there are 10, 11 instances, you can dismiss Prashant Bhushan. Prashant Bhushan is inconsequential to my argument. The fact is, he was biased. His history of utterances in the court said so. And Prashant Bhushan did take it up and said, "Sir, recuse yourself," which he didn't. And we talked briefly about institutions in the UK and USA, which have, in a sense, diluted this. One of the articles that Avi circulated was Portus and Scotus. And the tweet war that is going on between Portus and Scotus as we speak today, and the idea of one more conservative judge coming to the bench, I mean, it's out in the open, but that doesn't change the dispensing of law and justice. Back to Soli Soravji, and we have great company, Pradeep, Harish, and others who criticize them. Shekhar Gupta, in one of his 35-40-minute videos, just very recently, is eloquent, diplomatic, but stinging in the criticism of the Supreme Court. You'll have to put, along with us, you'll have to put Shekhar Gupta and Soravji in jail. And Soravji, again, has been unsparing in his criticism. So we were safe. I have a different take on this, mildly humorous at that. Did the court, if I might use a Victorian term, do itself in? My Fair Lady, was it where I pick it up from? Did it do itself in? I suspect yes, because Bhushan checkmated the court as only a Gandhi could. And it was chess at its brilliance, at its utmost brilliance. I am now safe as an individual, or from contempt of court. I can say what I want. You can do what you want to me, but you have to stop my penalty at 1 rupee. You cannot now go to 1 rupee and 1 paise, because you have laid down the precedent. In fact, you've laid down the law. So I today am safe in getting through or getting at you with whatever criticism I want. You can bring me to the court as many times as you wish, and I guess by video now. But 1 rupee hi dunga. Oh, wo dost mere de denge. And the ultimate joke was, we want you to apologize. That confounds common sense and confounds logic. Since when does apology happen on an order? Apology comes from within. And if you do ask for an apology, it's bound to be, on a scale of 10, it's bound to be 10 on insincerity. Because it's stupidity, the stupidity with which the court went at it. And lastly, I bring back the point, and I have a little poem to share with you, something I wrote down. It's not original. I wrote down about a year ago. This is a poem. I urge you to go to the YouTube and listen to Javed Akhtar reciting the whole thing. But I'll just recite the last few lines. He talks about, it's called Naya Hukumnama. And and he talks about the exercise of power and so on and so forth. I urge you, it's a beauty. But the last paragraph, after he finishes like the backdrop. किसी को ये कोई कैसे बताए, हवाएं और लहरें कब किसी हुक्मरान की मुट्ठी में रहती हैं, कब कैद खानों में रहती हैं. ये लहरें, पानी की लहरों की बात कर रहा है, ये लहरें रोकी जाती हैं जब, तो दरिया कितना भी हो पुरसुकून, however peaceful the river, तो दरिया कितना भी हो पुरसुकून, बेताब होता है और इस बेताबी का अगला कदम सैलाब होता है. I think we're sitting on that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Rutash. I think now we go back to our rebuttals or conclusive arguments towards the end. So 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes each. Avi, you're back on. You're still not. Avi, you're...
I'm there?
Yeah.
There now?
Yeah.
Okay, briefly. Well, Prashant Bhushan did ask Mishra to recuse himself. Number two, Prashant Bhushan did not lose any case to Arun Jaitley. It was Arvind Kejriwal who lost a case to Arun Jaitley and was forced to apologize. Prashant Bhushan and Arun Jaitley did not get into any litigation with each other. Number three, judicial time. The time spent on hearing this Prashant Bhushan case over several days could well have been spent in hearing one habeas corpus case from Kashmir and adjudicating on that rather. Four, this is supposed to be the most powerful Supreme Court of the world, and it gets shaken by 2 tweets. Next, the Sanyal Commission report is still work in progress. Gogoi is an example of moral corruption. There's no other word to describe for him. For him to sit as a judge in his own cause in a sexual harassment case, and to leave his name out of the order is the height of judicial corruption. And I say it consciously, and I'm willing to be charged for it. The next part is Gogoi's accuser is today back working for the Supreme Court, which means that she was justified in what she said. Otherwise, the Supreme Court is wrong and incorrect in having taken her back. Next, only one judge has been held guilty of contempt, and he was the judge who issued notice to the Supreme Court of India and the judges of the Supreme Court of India for corruption. This is Justice Dinakaran of the Tamil Nadu High Court. And last of all, just for now, the jury system. The jury system was given up in India because of 2 reasons, and they both went together. Number one was the fact that our cases were not heard on consecutive dates, so that the case never came to an end. The jury, which was selected once, had to be collected again several months later to be heard all over again. And the second part of the jury system being given up was that the juries were corrupted themselves. So just briefly, I've just taken up points which all of you have mentioned, and I tried to answer each one of them. The worst, of course, is the fact that judicial time, which would be much better spent hearing matters of personal liberty and freedom, have not been heard. That's it.
Thanks, Avi. So now we have back to Amy.
Okay. My point is that why are the judges always so afraid of criticism if they are if they haven't done any mischief, if they are pure, why are they afraid of criticism? Because their authority should come not from contempt, but from their behavior, their integrity, their own integrity and behavior. That should be the basis of their behavior, and then not that they can make someone a contemner. And then another thing is that, as Naveen said, Ram Mandir case was cleared because of political pressure, but it was, at least the job was done. That way, I remember a story, my real thing, my friend in America, she works with India. And she says, it is so easy to work with India. It's so wonderful to do business in India. I said, how come? She says, you just give some money and everything is done for you. So that is the story of the court. Just give some money and all is done. And that is it for now.
Thanks, Amy. Deepak, I'm going to unmute you. That's all. Yeah, Deepak, you're on.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I've heard a lot of deep thoughts and a lot of research thoughts. I must stand corrected in many of them for matters of fact. But I must say that when Avi said that Kejriwal filed the suit, such is my thought that Bhushan files all suits or whatever it was. The defamation came from, not a matter of fact. Okay. No, it's okay. I can't proceed with Avi shaking his hand.
We'll let Deepak finish.
Yeah, let me finish.
Yeah.
Such is Bhushan's reach that in my mind, it is Bhushan who must have filed such a matter. Nevertheless. So as far as I'm concerned, this is what I understand, despite very learned thoughts here. India is a very, very vibrant, its democracy is alive and well here. Thank you very much. There is another point that's been raised continuously that somehow there is bias in judgment. Now, you know, there is nowhere in the world where we can look without some basis, some contextual basis. So a certain section of society in America may be very concerned by a Republican judge being appointed, but it's very clear what he thinks. Now, I stand for free enterprise in this country, and I think so many of you do. Yet, in our speeches, in our thoughts, we are thinking something will happen, that the government will cure all the poor, and so on and so forth. If I had a judgment where I was very clear that this judge, and this is what, by the way, courts do for corruption, that they'll try and bring a file up which they think this judge will give them a better ruling. But if it was very clear that this is how the bench will go, then your case itself will lie in the open space, in the marketplace. And to me, at least, the United States is no great shakes as a democracy itself, because what kind of democracy is there if there are only two parties? You have a lot of vibrant issues here. You have caste issues, religious issues. I mean, they're just all over the place. And yet the courts function. So from that point of view, I think this is a genuinely, it may be a beacon. India itself is young, it's very new. It has had to emerge from very obscure kind of ideas. They're really obscurantist ideas. They go back to Britain and slavery and God knows what else. No blacks, suffragette, all sorts of ideas. We are bringing those ideas to the front. And people like Bhushan, I mean, are just that. What can we say about him? I don't have anything to say about him. I must also disclaim that yes, I know him and I know his father. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepak. Harish, you're on next. Okay, what's happening? Yeah, you're unmuted.
How many minutes do I have? Because I want
minutes.
I can eat from so I'll speak only for one. So I don't have to pay for the third event.
You're happier because you spoke for 11 minutes earlier.
Okay.
You ate away your time.
You know, excellent observations made. Judges, you know, can be conservative or liberal. We are saying that judges can have their opinions, yet they should not be influenced by political masters to come to a decision which is in the interest of the political master. That is what you go to the court for. You go for justice. So the law of the contempt of court, I think, to me, needs to be amended, and it has to balance the freedom of right to speech and expressions granted to the citizens of India, as well as the provisions made to enable the judicial system to function without obstruction. Unfortunately, like I said, to my mind, the judicial system and like so many other systems are so badly warped that there is a case in point here for a lot of changes to take place. But the biggest change that is needed is an independent judiciary with people of high esteem and integrity. They can have a belief, but they have to follow the law and not be dictated by politicians or any executives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My chance. मेरी बारी. आवाज नहीं आ रही.
Yeah. Okay. Ashok, you are muted. Ashok, you are muted.
Okay.
Ashok is muted.
Okay. My
justice system is muzzled. Okay.
The points that I Rohtash, मैं बोल रहा हूँ कौन बोल रहा? अच्छा.
Lalit, you.
What I'm saying is कि number one, the law, the contempt law, I don't think it was required because the Constitution itself gives the power to the Supreme Court and High Court for the contempt. But I presume that it is only for the civil contempt. And therefore these laws were brought in. Number 2 point, what Pradeep said, that judges are above law. This is not true because I noted that one Supreme Court judge was held under contempt of court by Delhi High Court because he criticized the functioning of the judiciary. A Supreme Court judge was indicted against this contempt of court by Delhi High Court because he questioned the judiciary, the functioning of the judiciary. So the judges are not above the court of law. Number 3, what Naveen, the point between Naveen and me is diametrically opposite. What Naveen said was that in a democracy it is necessary to protect the court. My viewpoint is that in a democracy, in fact, it is not necessary to protect the court and it is essential that the criticism be allowed. Only then the democracy can function. There are my 3 points. Thanks.
Thanks, Lalit. Sorry, I couldn't hear part of it because I got disconnected automatically, then got reconnected. Naveen, you're up next. 1 second.
Mute.
I'm trying to unmute him. You're not yet. Not yet. Are they? It's not happening.
And then you unmute everybody.
Okay, let me do that. Just 1 second, I'm going to unmute everybody.
Yeah, Rohtash has to do it because Rohtash, he's probably no longer the co-host.
Can you do that, Rohtash?
Yeah.
Unmute him. Unmute everybody, Rohtash.
Unmute yourself, please go ahead. Unmute all. Okay, Naveen, now you're unmuted. Just unmute yourself. Try to unmute yourself.
Keep is on. I can hear him.
Yeah, can you
Now
hear me?
you are. Now
Okay,
you are on.
Yeah, back. Now everybody's on, I think.
Okay.
Naveen.
I have 3 or 4 points to make. One is, Harish, you made a point that the court should not be serving their political masters, which is right. But I think we got to see the wider canvas. In both the cases examples I gave, whether it was Rafale or whether it was Ayodhya, the court may have served the political masters, but more than that, they served the nation. Suppose the Rafales were not coming in today. I mean, where would we stand? I mean, we need, or if Ayodhya wasn't settled, this dispute would have gone on. So it's not a question of serving political interference. Doesn't only mean serving the political interests of that party. It means serving the political interests of serving the interests of the nation. So that is one point I had. The second I wanted to say about these tweets, with all of you have said have shaken up the foundation of the Supreme Court. I don't agree with that. I think that those tweets, why they reacted adversely, was because they wanted to set an example that you can't just go on criticizing the Supreme Court in future. Of course, it was a big mistake, this 1 rupee business. There, I completely agree with Rohtash, but definitely they wanted to set a precedent that you can't go on. Now, criticism is fine, but don't forget the society we live in. We're not Ram Raj. Everything is going to work, according to a particular pattern. There can be chaos also if you allow everybody to, it's a free for all. So that's an aspect also one has to keep in mind. And again, Pradeep had a point that who is going to check the judges? Now, Pradeep, the point is, who is going to judge the judges? There has to be a finality to somewhere, something. You suggest who should be checking the judges. Maybe that selection can come that according to me, somebody has to be finality at some point. Pradeep, you're welcome to suggest how beyond the judges. I mean, if you want to, if you don't agree with the judgment, and you say, I don't accept it, then you go beyond.
Bhushan's Lokpal.
The next people will say the Lokpal is an individual. He can be bought.
Why not?
There's no end to it.
Go fight an election.
Okay, so I'm going to have to mute everybody. Please don't speak while the
No, don't mute. Otherwise, you have to wave our hands.
Then get your turns. Pradeep, you're on.
Please mute everybody and then I'll speak.
No, it's okay. Carry on. Nobody speak.
Okay. I had one point, basically, major point was, and that Avi mentioned that was with Justice Gogoi. How can a judge decide his own case? Okay. And then not even mention that he was present on that particular case in the judgment. So he's one of the classic cases which really stands out as a test for the Indian judicial system to really put him under contempt of court. And I go back to my argument. Who's going to check the judges? It's the people of India eventually, the country. The Constitution has given you a right. I'm not saying that you make haphazard allegations, but you have a right to speak. You have a right to criticize. Nobody has spoken about Justice Gogoi's judgment and in the secretary case, after it was done, after a few weeks or so, it just went quiet. Why? Because सब डरते हैं कि मेरे को ऊपर ना होके सेक्शन लगा देगा, कोई अंदर कर देगा, कोई ये कर देगा, कोई वो कर देगा. It's wrong.
But Pradeep, isn't it true that all this knowledge is from public space?
That's why I didn't want this, the mute, you see. Number two, on the issue of Ayodhya.
Some music is playing at the background.
Not in my house.
Okay, you can hear some.
He's got a TV on.
Everybody there. Somebody got a TV or something on.
So, second is on the Ayodhya case and being able to answer to the political masters. If you're going to answer to your political masters, you're actually not judging a case. You already pre-committed. So you got a committed judiciary. Are we supposed to be living in that environment that we want committed judiciary for each and everything? Then I come to Rohtash's point. That means the four pillars of the democracy have clubbed hands together. And if they club hands together, the democracy is in danger. Totally. The third thing is, I don't think, Harish, that an independent judiciary in our Indian kind of system is even possible at all. With the kind of people that we are, we have corruption ingrained in ourselves. And
so true.
And we need somebody to check that. And there are many systems in the world where even a junior judge, let's say a district judge, does not sit alone. He has to sit with two people. I mean, there have to be two judges to take a decision, not one. And many courts in the world I've seen that minimum 2 judges sit irrespective of the situation. There has to be a check. Or you have a jury. What's the problem? The jury didn't suit Indira Gandhi because of that case. Nagar, what's the case? What the Navy guy, whatever his case. But those are brief points that I wanted to make. That we will be living in a fool's paradise if we think that the judiciary here in India can actually give us justice. We are working towards animal farm too.
Thank you, Pradeep. So please, I'm requesting everybody, do not speak in between. Otherwise, I'll have to mute everybody. We are back to Rohtash. You're the last person.
Can I be heard?
I think maybe I'll mute everybody because there's some background noise I'm hearing, right?
Can you mute everybody?
I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute. Give me a second. Rohtash, you're on.
Can I be heard?
Yes, please.
Right, wonderful. It's rare for me to get in the last word. It's a privilege, actually. So I'm going to make the best of it. And there's no fear of rebuttal as well. So I'll take a couple of swipes, if I may. Okay, guys, I do wish to rebut a few. Number one, it was said that, that these are two separate things, freedom and contempt. And the fear of the process of law inconveniencing you into muteness, silence is palpable. It is used by the state, whether it is sedition, the young guy from JNU a few days ago found himself behind bars, the sword hanging on your head of contempt of court, all kinds of things. The state moves in with the collusion of the judiciary to silence voices. That is fundamentally against my right to speak. Now, the process about that, etc., is another story. So the first point, we do have, tell me, who are these guys who influence from the executive, they're able to influence the judiciary, and from the media and the legislature, there appear to be 4 circles that are intersecting with each other, each of the pillars, right? And what you have at the core of these 4 intersections is what is sometimes referred to as the deep state. Now, this deep state is those few, very few individuals, half a dozen, a dozen, who actually have the real power in the state. They're able to move the levers of power, of police, of the judiciary, of executive orders, etc., etc. Are they big corporates? Are they the few names that we know of who have no visibility but a huge amount of influence? And lastly, I think between these pillars, as they come together, there is a need to keep the old tension going. Processes have taken away the tension between them. I think there needs to be healthy tension to keep them apart so that they're able to hold up the structure. And lastly, to the point, I personally would like to rebut that it is not the job of any judicial system to set examples. In fact, that's defeating the act of judgment by itself. It's not parenthood that's here. Parents set examples. This is a adult to adult transaction. It cannot be setting examples. Who the hell are you to set examples for me or make examples out of me? That's my fundamental. Over to you, Ashok.
Well, thanks, guys. I think it was really an enlightening discussion, very lively. And I'll unmute everybody in a second. Okay, let me unmute everybody first. Okay. So when Rohtash first mentioned this to me, and he suggested, well, I opted for being the moderator, and I really didn't know how this is going to go about, but I think it's gone well. And thanks to Rohtash that he organized all this, and he has plans for, I think, other events like this. So over to Rohtash. Let's hear what he has to say on this.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad it went well. We've been at it for an hour and 30 minutes, 90 engaging minutes. I don't know if the right length is 120 or 60. I only felt let's try it out, right? And maybe come up with some process changes, etc., that will make this happen. And I would like to then talk to the 8, 9, 10 people on the group. Two things. A, why not think about what next to discuss maybe in 2 weeks' time? Something equally worrying about our times and our life. And there are issues out. There are serious issues out there. And we do have, in some way, in some very, very meaningful way, as a group like this, as an individual like this, we do have convening power to be able to influence the course of events. Unfortunately, we choose not to exercise that power. We have opinion-making capabilities. So, 2 observations from my side, and look forward to the next one. Obviously, please participate and offer and so on and so forth. Let's make it. Hi, Pradeep, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank you and thank Avi for the hard work that he's done, and you for the thought process for bringing us all together on this particular platform. Really enjoyable. And like you said, we have some influencing powers, and we should really, if we believe in the arguments that have that we've heard today, we should really go around and spread that kind of message.
Everybody's unmuted, so whatever you want to say.
I have an observation. Why is Avi in the dark?
He's got his
dark state.
Torchlight on, and he's hiding somewhere.
That is the dark state.
The power went down.
He's the deep state, right?
Deep state. Sorry, dark state and deep state.
So next time you please get something which gets a light. Maybe I'll send you a light. I'll get a light.
No. Hold on. Since you're so...
yeah, I mean, we can't...
see, now you can
that's better.
At least you can see your...
Can we not have a picnic now?
Come over right now.
No. Why? Because why I'm saying is कि open में तो बैठ सकते हैं ना in the evening.
Yeah.
Maybe in the park or someplace.
Yeah, with social distancing, yes.
Lalit, he's in South India. Lalit, he's in South India, the coffee state.
Well, actually, I
think we'll deliberate on the chat, and this went up really well. I actually thought it was going to be too long, but I've been penalized for speaking when I never heard his.
In fact, Harish also, sent a message, and I told Rohtash separately.
पहली बार है, माफ कर दे.
नहीं, रोहताश को मैंने बोला, I think the time we are keeping is too long for everybody. But I felt that actually I was cutting everybody short, so we need more time.
I didn't even know I was speaking for 9 minutes. Yeah, you said I spoke for 10.
You spoke for 10 plus.
10 plus. 10:43.
I can't say whether this has got impact anywhere outside, because all the facts that we speak of freedom have actually been obtained from the press, whether Gogoi or anyone. But it has got high impact amongst us 9. This much I can say. Very high impact. I certainly didn't expect this. I thought it was
judiciary in India needs a huge overhaul.
Hold on. Please hold on.
As we go forward, I think we need to make sure that the moderator has some loud sounding bell so that everybody can hear it.
Yes, I didn't hear it either.
No, I also didn't hear anything.
Okay, guys.
And the moderator must summarize after the...
Yes, I agree.
So kindly summarize. What is that?
I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
We don't want time.
The number of shades of opinion, the nuances, etc. I think any amount of summarization will never do justice to.
No, I don't think it's time consuming also. Yeah, it'll extend it a lot.
I don't think I can do it. So I'm happy with receiving.
Compliment Ashok.
Okay, guys, take care. Thank you.
Rohtash can't do it. Nobody can.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Rohtash.
Thank you. Welcome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Sorry, guys, my net again went away and I got disconnected.
Okay.
But thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.